everyone, Backyard Farmer Pat here. Today I'm back in my sister's backyard and I'm about to check on those June plum cuttings. But I was just looking around her garden and her garden is just popping. The bed that I made for my mom is completely overgrown now. We cannot let it go to, go to whatever crap over the summer. But look at this cassava. These are little cassava sticks that I stuck in the ground, and her cassava is now massive, and her ginger is coming up. But look at this ackee tree. They were really worried that the ackees weren't gonna bear this year, but the ackee tree is absolutely laden with ackee. Her cherry mango tree, 2 years old. They had a ton of cherry mangoes this year. This was the first year it bore. It's 2 years old, and it's just massive. It's just taking over the garden. I love cherry mangoes because they actually stay pretty short, so it's very easy to pick them. That's her miniature naseberry and her yellow plum. She was so worried about this plum tree. This plum tree was literally like 2 feet tall for like the first year, and then just this summer with all the rain, look at it, it absolutely took off. But we are here to talk about the June plums. Oh, this is her East Indian mango. If you guys see the video that I did just a few months ago on her June plum tree, you saw how small the East Indian mango tree was. But look at it now. This is just a few months later, and it has probably tripled in size. But the star of the show is the June plum tree. So I'm here to check on my air layer. So a few months ago, not a few months ago, about 6 weeks ago, I did an air layer of the June plum tree, and come closer, let me show you what it looks like. So an air layer is a way of propagating a tree where you keep the actual tree, portion of the tree that you're propagating on the tree until you're ready to plant it. So what you do with the air layer is you cut away a part of the bark, and you try to stimulate root growth. Then once the roots are big enough to maintain the tree, you separate it from the parent plant, then you have a whole new tree. So if you remember 6 weeks ago, I did this air layer, and oh my goodness, what do we have here? So this is the air layer that I did, and this is the branch that will become a tree. You see it has a nice branches here, but look here, people, look at this. These are actual blossoms. So when I did this air layer 6 weeks ago, there were absolutely no blossoms. This was a one branch that wasn't blossoming. It didn't have any fruit on it, and I chose this branch because I didn't want to cut a branch. I didn't want to remove a branch that already had fruit, for two reasons. First, I didn't want to deprive my sister of, a branch that was already fruited, and second, when you do an air layer, the roots are going to be a lot smaller, so it probably wouldn't be strong enough to maintain fruit growth. But this is actually blossoming, so I think I'm going to leave it on there. And look at this, there were no blossoms at all. Even here you can see below where I did the air layer, it has sprouted new branches, and the branches actually have blossoms, actually have little tiny fruit and blossoms in there. So this is really great. But if you look through the tree, her tree is absolutely laden with June plums of various sizes. If you look up there, you see these massive June plums. This tree is about 2 years old, but this is a traditional Jamaican June plum. I mean, what tree do you know, what fruit tree do you know could be this massive in just 2 years? Well, the June plums can, the real Jamaican June plums. So now that I bought my property in Palm Bay, I wanted to make sure I have my June plum. And instead of spending $60 for a June plum tree, which is about what it costs, I'm gonna have my own June plum tree from this air layer. So air layers can take 2 months, 3 months to be ready. It's only about 6 weeks now, but let's check on it. All right, so you can see I put, and go back and watch the previous video. I'll put a link to the video so you can see exactly what I did. I just put a lot of plastic and wrapped it up well to keep the moisture in, and I used an empty water bottle, and if you look closely you can see it's still very moist. I really don't want to open up the whole thing. I want to kind of see how it's doing, because if there are no roots forming, I will probably wrap this back up. Wow, it's still very moist. Okay, I don't visibly see any roots yet with this. I think I'm gonna take off the outer layer of oh, but look here. Okay. So if you look under all the plastic, these are actually the beginning of roots. But it looks like it might be a bit too moist. Some of them look like they're definitely roots forming, but they're kind of, there's a little bit of mildew here. So I'm gonna take this outer layer of plastic off so it can breathe a little bit more. I'm gonna slide this up a bit. So it looks like it's working. I'm gonna leave it back on. I'm gonna put the foil back on, take the plastic off, and give it some more time. But it's definitely working. I see the roots beginning to form. What I'll do is leave it on here for a few more weeks, and then when I'm ready to transplant it at my new home, then I'll come and cut it here, and then just put the whole thing in the ground. So let's put the foil back on, and I'll be back in a few weeks to check on this and to transplant it into my new garden. So I'm gonna put this, make sure all where the roots are coming out, it's covered. Yeah, there's definitely too much water in here. So I'm gonna squeeze this out. Gonna squeeze this out. It's still alive. You can see it's very green. It has blossoms, but it's just too much water. And plus with all the rain was probably adding more water. So I'm gonna squeeze some of this out. Give it a chance to drain. All right. And cover it back up. And the next time you see this, guys, it will be in my new home in Palm Bay, and I'll be sure to give it a call it out so you guys can remember that this is where it started. Taking off the plastic so it can breathe. I think it will be able to drain enough through the foil. The foil is kind of open. All right, guys, so that's it. That's my update on my June Plum Air Layer. Go out and try an air layer today. This cost me absolutely nothing, just a handful of I think it was spagman moss or coconut coir, a handful of coconut coir, and a knife and a little piece of foil. That's all it cost me, and I have a new June plum tree. So till next time, let's plant, grow, and eat together. Go ahead and share this video, share what you're growing, drop a comment below so I can know what you're growing, what you're up to. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and check me out on Instagram also. Bye now.